Hello. I'd like to first introduce a special guest that has decided to join us today. His name is Professor Frederick. It's obviously his birthday today, and he's also quite excited about that, as well as the autonomic nervous system. So, without further ado, I'd like to talk about the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is composed of two major presynaptic neurons, known as the cholinergic neurons, presynaptic neurons, which are kind of, calm and cooling. Think of that. So I made it blue because it's mostly in regard to the parasympathetic system. The cholinergic presynaptic neurons secrete acetylcholine. The mother and father of acetylcholine are something known as choline, caring, like a mom, and acetyl-CoA, which is kind of like, don't mess with my daughter or I'll bust you, which I like to think of as a father, although these roles could be reversible. And no matter, when they come together in holy matrimony, through the enzyme known as choline acetyltransferase, they make the beautiful child of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine needs one more step before it can come out into the world. Which would be the calcium influx. The calcium influx allows the synaptic vesicles of the acetylcholine to boom! Notice the pow here. Whatever, it's not important. And it enables the pre-synaptic vesicles to be released into the synaptic cleft, acetylcholine, right there. Of that, there are two different types of receptors that acetylcholine can bind to, the muscarinic as well as the nicotinic. We will go into further detail about the muscarinic and nicotinic and the various drugs it can affect, since it pops up over and over again on the boards, and I'm like, what the freak is that? But first, I'll do a brief overview. Muscarinic is mostly associated with the parasympathetic system, although I will say there's one caveat in which in the sympathetic system it's related to the piloerecti muscles that give you goosebumps, as well as sweat glands. They also secrete acetylcholine, thus are muscarinic. Well, they don't necessarily muscarinic, but they are, so just remember that. And then the next ones are the nicotinic. The nicotinic have two different types, nicotinic M, or muscular, which are in the neuromuscular junction, as well as nicotinic 2, or the NN, which is found in the adrenal medulla, the autonomic ganglia, and just various CNS, whatever. But the biggest one I think you have to know for nicotinic would be the NM, high yield. For muscarinic, there are 5 different types of muscarinic receptors. 1, 4, and 5 are involved in the CNS. M2 is involved in the heart, and M3 is involved in the smooth muscles. A good way to remember this is 4 plus 1 equals 5, and you're smart, so you need to use your CNS for that. 2 is that there are 2 sides of the heart. I'm kind of stretching. And 3, you can just remember 3. Anyways, so these are involved in the cholinergic system. If the excess acetylcholine is disposed of by acetylcholinesterase, which is a very important drug in the nervous system that we will find out about later in another video, hopefully, and they're broken back down again, kind of like a grandma, or as your parents, then you become parents, into choline and acetate. So a little different, just like you might be as a parent in the world. Anyways, now we're moving on to adrenergic. I made adrenergic red because it's like the fight or flight system mostly, which is also known as the sympathetic. In there they have a lot of, parasympathetic. Often you are in complicated situations when you need to use your sympathetic nervous system. And just like that, it's a little more complicated to go back into the world of the synaptic cleft. First, you have the DOPA, which is converted into dopamine, which I abbreviated as DA, through the dopa decarboxylase enzyme. The dopamine then is converted into norepinephrine by the dopamine beta hydroxylase. Then it becomes a vesicle, which maybe as a teenager, who knows. Anyways, and that can then be excreted through the synaptic cleft. It has 2 different types of receptors, which are the alpha and the beta receptors. For both the alpha and beta, there's alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2. In general, beta 2 are generally not innervated, and mostly epinephrine works with it. And norepinephrine rarely is working with that. What I usually remember with beta 2 is the bronchial dilators, but we're going to talk in more detail about that, but I just wanted to kind of give a caveat. I think for me, alpha 1 and alpha 2 are a little more complicated in their roles of their life, and we will talk about that later as well. But both of them are involved in various organs, the heart, smooth muscles, and glands, and they can often be related in the sympathetic nervous system through just directly the nervous system, but also the adrenal medulla, which is the one that would be involved with beta mostly, and alpha, but sorry, I'm confusing more. But the ones with the adrenal medulla are mostly in regard to epinephrine. So if they are not used, there's excess norepinephrine, how they get rid of the system is through COMT or MAOA, which is listed there. This concludes a general overview. I'm sorry if I confused you more, but I hope I didn't. I hope to include more about the details of each of the specific receptors I talked about. But first, let's have a little review session. I want to be like my friend Jean-Claude. Anyways, so nicotinic receptors are part of which system? The adrenergic or cholinergic? If you said cholinergic, you're right. You're on the right track. Good job. Now, is beta in regard to the adrenergic or cholinergic? If you said adrenergic, you are correct. Excellent. My accent is changing from French to some type of Caribbean accent, perhaps. Anyways, sorry, I'm quite distracted. And why don't we do one more question in which of the muscarinic receptors are penetrating the CNS? Yes, 1, 4, and 5. Excellent work. Well, this concludes our time here. Dr. Frederick does not have any corrections for me right now, so I will say au revoir.